Good evening. I'm Shepard Smith on CNBC, and this is the news. And right now, on a brand new newscast, we'd normally play the best sound and video from the debate, right? That's the lead, the back and forth from the president and the man who wants to replace him. And then we show and tell you what else we face as a nation, because there's a lot. That produced open, as we call it. About a minute. It's fast, there's music, it's compelling and rich with emotion. And that was our plan. That's what we'll usually do. But as it turns out, in this moment, that's just the noise. You've heard it, and we need to cut through it. You've told us what you think about the debate. We have CNBC overnight polls just in, and we'll share. Truth is, there's never been such a thing as last night. A first official introduction of the two candidates from the Committee on Presidential Debates follows rules. It's dignified, democratic, structured, American. Not last night. That debate cannot be measured by traditional X's and O's, regardless of how you'll vote. We will endeavor this hour to draw distinctions between the two candidates on the issues: COVID, the economy, racial injustice, social unrest, governance, education, and so much more. We'll do that as best we can based on what last night's event offered up. But let's mark this moment. Last night, the president called into question the heart of our democracy, the peaceful transition of power. Is there assurance that it'll happen? Asked to give it, the president declined and openly sowed the seeds of distrust in the outcome. If there's no clear winner on election night, what's the process? What does the Constitution say? We'll report on that. And our presidential historian will offer clarity, perspective. In the debate, the president told a group of white supremacists, some of whom stood by those in Charlottesville with their torches, to stand back and stand by. Joe Biden declared the duly elected president of the United States unfit to lead, called him a racist, a liar, a clown, and told him to shut up. We've never seen any of this, not in America. But from this, we march toward the vote. And tonight, we'll lay out the facts to the best of our ability in context and with perspective. First up, election integrity and where we stand. Every indication is there has been no widespread voter fraud, not in America. And there's nothing to indicate there may be a problem this time. So says the FBI director himself. But here's the president.
As far as the ballots are concerned, it's a disaster. This is going to be a fraud like you've never seen. Did you see what's going on? Take a look at West Virginia, mailmen selling the ballots. They're being sold. They're being dumped in rivers. This is a horrible thing for our country. This is not going to end well.
NBC News and CNBC have seen no evidence to back up the president's claims, and he's offered nothing of substance. CNBC's Eamon Javers looked into whether there are any legitimate threats to the election integrity, and he's live with us now. Eamon, good evening.
Yeah, Shep, good evening to you. You know, last night wasn't the first time the president has tried to sow doubts about the validity of this election. He's been doing that now for months, and sometimes on a daily basis. The president's been saying that mail-in ballots are susceptible to fraud from foreign governments, that the tally of the voting could ultimately take too long, and in the end of the day, that the result of this election might never be accurately determined.
This is what we're going to get into, and it's going to be a disaster. And it's going to be thought of very poorly. It's going to hurt our country. It will be a tremendous embarrassment to our country. It'll go on forever, and you'll never know who won. They know there are going to be millions of missing ballots or tremendous numbers of missing ballots. You could be talking about large percentages of these ballots are going to be missing. There's going to be fraud. It's a disaster.
People across the country already sending in their votes by mail, and election experts say it's a safe way to vote because of security measures like these in New Mexico, a line for your signature and a box for the last 4 digits of your Social Security number. Just a couple of hours ago, I spoke to New Mexico's Secretary of State.
There's no threat to mail-in ballots from really any source. And in fact, mail-in ballots are the safest and most secure way in many cases to cast your vote this year in light of the COVID-19 pandemic. You know, mail-in ballots have been used, of course, in different ways in different states, but for decades now as a safe, secure way for folks to vote and make their voices heard in our democracy.
And Shep, in New Mexico, they say they saw a spike in mail-in balloting during the primary season earlier this year. They say there was some confusion among voters about how to execute those ballots, and they say they've streamlined that process now, and they're ready for Election Day, Shep.
All right, that's election fraud. What about cyber threats? How real and how worried?
You know, that is one area where election observers say there are some concerns going into this election, particularly on the area of ransomware. Now, that's when a hacker reaches in and steals the data out of a company or a government database and doesn't give it up until they get paid a bribe. That's one area that observers are concerned about. The other one is social media hacking, when hackers steal the accounts of high-profile people and post tweets or things on Facebook that make it look like something is happening that's not really actually happening. That could sow some confusion on Election Day, and officials say they're on the lookout for both of those, Shep.
Eamon Javers, live tonight. Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.